Welcome to the final video in our Intro to SQL course. And in this one, we'll be grouping data using SQL. First up will be group by, which groups rows that have the same values in specified columns. And then having, which filters results after aggregation, whereas the where clause filters before grouping. I want to make sure you really take a look at the having clause. I'll dive more into that in the video. That's going to be a very, very important aspect going into this one. Without further ado, let's get right on into it. Okay, so I got my data all set up, and we have our first question, which is what was our average satisfaction score for each of our call reasons? Okay, so kind of mixing in a little bit from our previous video using average, right? We'll have to use some kind of aggregate function, but there's something a little bit different, right? We'll have to do a lot of grouping because we have different categories going on. So let's get right onto it. Let's go do it. So let's go to select. And we got to think, right? So, what columns am I trying to bring in? And especially what order do I want to put it in, right? Because maybe I want the reason come first and then the score. And that's kind of what I want to do. So, what column would that be for the reason? Okay, so reason is named a column, reason. And for this one, okay, I got to find the satisfaction score. So, right here, the CSAT score for customer satisfaction score. I have to find the average of it. So, I have to use the average function in this one. So I'll do average CSAT score, and I'll call this one as average score. Keep it pretty straightforward. Then I could go end off from there. That's all I need. I just need a reason and the score. And I'm going to do from, because we're pulling it from the SQL course data set. And just as a reminder, with BigQuery, right, we pull in from the database first and then the data set. And then also the backticks. Don't forget, these are not single quotes, they're backticks. They'll come in handy. If you do single quotes right here, it will not work. So we have that down. Now let's keep thinking here, right? So we have the reason and the average score, but how are we going to make sure that the score gets aggregated based off the reason? This is where things get interesting, is where we have the group by function. So we got to think, okay, with this aggregation I'm doing, right? I'm finding the average of score. Where do I want that to go towards? I want that grouped based off the reason. So I'm going to click enter, move my cursor to the right. I'm going to do group by, and I want to group that by the reason itself. So do reason. Okay. And you know what? I want to order this as well. I want the score going highest to lowest. So let's do order by. And let's do order by. And then big thing with this, right, is you can type in order by average CSAT score and put it right here. Or you can actually type in the alias we gave it. So we could do average underscore score. Let's put that in descending order. And let's take a look. Let's hover over, run it, and see what we get. Okay, so we have our reasons and we have the average score going from highest to lowest. So we see everything was pretty close. This might not tell a very good story. Let's say someone was inquiring about this. What was the average score here and there? This might be a situation where you go back to your manager or your stakeholder and you'll have to dive maybe more into it. Maybe there's more information, but as of right now, on an overall look, not too much information to be too useful. But I also want you guys to understand that this is the order it has to go in. So remember, we are selecting our columns. We're saying where it's coming from. And then after we selected everything, think about this, right? Because group by is based off rows. Okay, so that's the order comes in. And then right after that is order by to end it off. And that's why we're able to use average score right there with the alias, because everything was already grouped. We have our data and it's all actually good to go. Like if I took out order by right here, let's say I just only did just top three. Let's just run this through and take a look and see what happens. But it should come back just fine. But like I said, it probably will not come in the right order that we want. It'll just be the data itself. And yep, it's not in the order we want, right? So it's the right information, but if we want it in a specific way, that's where order by comes in order to get it, like I said, to the way you want it, so you can ship it off, being all clean and organized and good to go. Okay, so next up we have which cities had an average satisfaction score higher than 6.5. Okay, this is gonna be a fun one. I'm really excited for this one. So you gotta think, right? The name of this video is grouping data, so of course we're gonna have to use a group by function, but we're also gonna be using the having function, and this is gonna be very important because you're gonna see some similarities between where and having. I'm gonna really explain why we're using having and not where in this situation. So let's go to line 14 and let's think, okay. So in this question, we were looking at cities and satisfaction score. So we just need two columns. So let's do select and city. What's the name? It's just city. Perfect. Select city. Let's do average CSAT score, just like the previous question. Let's call this also average score. This is fine. Where's it coming from? Is coming from our SQL course.data. Cool. Okay, so now let's slow down and take a look. So once again, right, we're looking at cities and their average score, and it has to be higher than 6.5. So we got to think, right? In previous videos, we've done the where clause, where that's a filtering thing. We might say, okay, select city from where city is higher than 6.5, right? You would think that that makes sense. However, we've done an aggregate function already. We are aggregating data. We cannot do that. We cannot use the where clause. We have to aggregate. We have to group this, aggregate it correctly, and then we filter it. So from here, we got to think, okay, how are we grouping this? And just like in the previous question where we grouped it by reason, we want to group this by the cities. So let's do group by city. Let me just make a little more room here. Perfect. Okay, so we grouped it by the city. Now we have to think, okay, everything's all grouped together. It's been aggregated. Now we want a filter. Now we want specific information from this grouped data. This is where having comes in. So let's do having. And in this one, we cannot type out average score yet because we're not all done yet with our aggregation. So we have to just take the average CSAT score, put that right here, and let's make our criteria where this has to be more than 6.5. We could just type it just like that. Click enter again. And let's order this just like before. Let's order it in descending order. I want to figure out actually too, like, yes, the whole point, we're going to know how many cities, but I also want to know what is the city with the highest satisfaction score. So let's do that. Average underscore score, descending, perfect. So let's walk this one through again really quickly. So we have the city, and we're finding the average score, right, based off the CSAT score column from our data set. We are grouping this originally by the city, and then within that group data, the brand new average score has to be more than 6.5. Then when that's all done, let's order that all by the average score in descending order. Cool. Let's take that all, run it, and take a look and see what we get. Okay, so we got Lake Charles with an 8.0. So Lake Charles had the highest satisfaction score. If we scroll down here, we could take a look, and looks like we have 40 cities who had over a 6.5 score. So that might come in handy. Obviously, you might want to also pull in, the state so we know exactly where it's coming from. But it's gonna be very important. Maybe we want to direct our business in certain areas. We're getting great scores, so we make sure we're taking care of those customers as well. But that's everything we need right there. And that does it for our intro to SQL course. I really appreciate you guys coming around, watching these videos, taking the assessments, and getting your certificate at the end. Be on the lookout for many more SQL courses, along with other data analytics content as well. And I really look forward to seeing you around.